King Sejong Station, of course, our first player who came in as a replacement for one of our guys that could not make it to the grand final. Give a big cheer for Cooler Master Storm's Polt. And his opponent in the southeast position, fighting for his tournament life almost at this point, from Team Liquid, he is Snute.
Yeah, really has to start turning his tournament performance around. This is his second match, I believe.
Yes.
And yeah, he really needs to start winning here. It gets pretty messy if you go to 2-2, and if you get to 2-2, it kind of comes down to the maps, and you never want to be in that position.
No. It, like, having just that little bit of comfort blanket, yeah, you lost the first match. It's not the worst thing in the world, because you always feel like you have a little bit that you can fall back on. But now, you know, if you lose this series, it's going to weigh heavily on your mind, especially going up against players who are probably going to give you less straight-up games. Like, when I think about who else Snute could play, or, you know, who else is in this group, like, Jokchi is a scary opponent. We saw MMA be pretty scary with his choice of strategy as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, all these Terrans are very, very aggressive Terrans, and kind of just going to play similar to MMA, which is probably very, very scary for Snute, considering how that first match went. But, I mean, we're going to start things off with a CC first versus Hatch first. Snute kind of scouting early on as well. He really wants to avoid dealing with some proxy racks, as we know in the past it has been a bit of a weakness of his.
Yeah, it's only interesting to me because Polt is not really a two-raxing kind of guy, but maybe Snute's saying to himself, we haven't played in a while, I haven't seen a lot of Polt's, especially Polt's Terran versus Zerg broadcasted. He was eliminated from the BlizzCon opening weekend in a game against Protoss.
Yeah, we never really got to see much of Polt and what he's been doing against Zerg very recently here. So you got to be careful with that.
Yeah, and I think it's actually kind of cool, because even if you even go further back to, like, when he played in I think the last big tournaments like Battlegrounds in Washington, D.C., and he mostly played a lot of TVT in that tournament. So this is something that Polt uses to his advantage quite a bit, because he's the kind of guy that'll mix things up, get inside your head a little bit, doesn't necessarily go for the most standard play, but he's not exactly cheesy, and that's something that Snute really needs to keep on his mind, because mid-game pressure, things like Marauder drops, Widowmine drops, like, these are the kinds of plays that he goes for, not like Hellion, you know, run-bys and Hellbat all-ins.
Hellion, Banshees, etc. Yeah, I completely agree with you there. So maybe Snute might be a little bit more comfortable against this kind of style. We're going to have to wait and see. I'm sure, hopefully, we're going to see a bit of a stronger performance than his matches against MMA here. Kind of getting a little scared off early on. He sees the kind of opening he's dealing with here. So it was CC first, followed up by the racks, obviously. It's pretty decently timed.
And already the way that Polt's opened up, like most Terrans, you either open with a Reaper, or, you know, when you go for this Command Center first style, you're getting these two Marines out. He's trying to deny the Overlord scouting, so it's an economic opening for sure. But he's also keeping in mind that having those Marines can keep the Overlords away. He doesn't want him to know 100% what he's going for, and you know, not to completely downplay the talk of Polt's mid-game aggression, but he's also a kind of guy that could just build that third Command Center and play this game completely straight up. But there is the second gas, and Snute getting Zergling speed, it's a reasonable option to keep you safe, because he's going to take a third base as well. He's not worried about being hit by anything super soon, but I really wouldn't be surprised to see Polt do, you know, his Viking opening into a medevac, which is kind of similar to how MMA played versus him on Nimbus.
Yep, that's very true. I mean, he knows he has some breathing space because he did see the CC first. He's like, you know, a decently timed third base. I completely agree. But yeah, you want to kind of transition a bit further past Speedlings after a little while, because, I mean, if there is going to be a Hellbat timing, if there's going to be some sort of aggression like that, you need a Bailing Nest or a Roach Warren. You have to have something. And
this Overlord checking for the second gas of Polt is just smart, safe play. Like, you really want to know about this. And he's quite close, but he hasn't seen it just yet. It is a very important read. He has another Overlord coming actually from the south side, so he can draw these Marines over for a little bit. Now he's going to move up and see the other gas.
Yeah,
he didn't quite
he's
see
going
it
to see
first,
everything.
but yeah, he'll know that there are two, which is what's most important. He also sees this starport moving over to the tech lab. Polt's the kind of guy that could just, after he kills this Overlord, like completely switch things up, but it's actually just going to open straight Hellion Banshee.
Yeah, and straight into Cloak as well, which is pretty interesting considering how scouted that was. That was completely scouted. So there should be spawns in position when that Banshee finally comes out. But, I mean, you can still find work with Cloak between the bases. You can kind of try and zone out everything from the third base and do damage there. we'll have to wait and see how Polt's going to play that, if he's going to go for an Armory anytime soon and do like a Banshee Hellbat timing as well.
Yeah. So Snute, very similar to the way that he played versus MMA, is the double evolution chamber. So it looks like he wants to start his +1 upgrades before he gets the lair. Now the spine crawler up front is going to help with keeping these Hellions from poking too much, but without that lair, he needs to build a spore crawler. Otherwise, the Banshee can start to bully that a little bit, and the Queens won't be quite as effective. So it's a bit interesting, but it's a very late Mutalisk build.
It is. It's kind of the standard kind of timing you'd see from the old meta. You get the 1-1, you go into a later lair, maybe a 13-minute sort of muter timing. But I mean, you got to be so defensive up until then. You don't know if there's going to be Hellbats on the way. You got to have a Baneling Nest ready in this current meta because you can really pay for it early on here.
Yeah. Polt behind all of this, double engineering bay, third command center, stim. There's nothing really crazy coming out of him. Hellion Banshee is a great way to put pressure on a player that likes to open up with just Zerglings. And, you know, you force out the spores, you force out the spine, and it's not a huge advantage, but you always have the Zerg player constantly worried about whether or not you're going to try to dive in on that third base, or if that Banshee swoops around to the side and catches you off guard. Because Polt has built more Hellions than you normally see. This is kind of one of the staples of his play. Going up to 10 Hellions is actually not that unusual for him this year. And
it has so much potential as well. Like, you can do the run by, you can get a great shot off on a lot of Zerglings, you can snipe Queens very easily with that amount as well. And I mean, going into the mid game, you can just turn them into Hellbats, and then you've got a sick amount of tanks for your bios. So I actually really like this a lot, and it means this creep is not going anywhere near the center of the map.
Yeah, Polt really understands the importance of creep getting out for a Zerg player, and he's very well set up to delay it as much as possible. The Banshee's going to swoop into the right side once again. Zergling's working on some rocks. There's another Banshee just east of the natural, but Polt, he's looking for every little opening he can get, and this lair is super, super late. In fact,
is so late.
It's barely going to line up.
I actually think he might have forgotten to make the lair at this
He's just
point.
going straight for the fourth. Yeah, those Banshees seem to have really distracted him, and taking the fourth this quickly is a reasonable way to compensate as far as getting units out, but still, dealing with these Banshees, it's quite a pain in the ass.
It is a pain in the ass, I completely agree, but they're in red already, so they should be kind of a non-factor for him now. He's like, okay, there's 2 damage. They can't really pick off anything more here. I should be able to just go into Mutas from here very, very safely. I mean, he's going to have so much gas for Mutas. He's already up to 14.
I really like how Polt starts this missile turret in his natural. Like, he's already thinking, he's like, well, maybe Mutalisks are coming soon. It's like, Polt, do you realize your opponent's lair is just now finishing? So Mutalisks would be coming super, super late. And we kind of saw how MMA took advantage of this. Like, the medevacs are about to start coming out for Polt. He has a lot of Hellions, and you could say, yeah, the Hellions didn't really kill anything. Well, they delayed creep, and now you can have 10 Hellbats with your army. Now, best thing that Snute has done this game is start these Banelings, because I really feel like if Polt just pushed him with the Hellbats and Marines and he only had like 6 or 7, he might just die.
Yeah. It's quite a big Baneling commitment, but he has such a bank of gas already this early on in the game because he got that lair so late. And yeah, I kind of agree with it completely. He won't need any more Banelings until the Mutas are out at this point. And he's already got 2/2 plus Baneling speed on the way, so he's kind of just banking here. And he did get a really fast 4th base, mind you. He's already got it up and running, and it's getting saturated at this point.
Polt, by the way, is not aware of this 4th base location yet. He's cleaned up the creep on the right side. Those rocks have been opened, but this is still a pretty sizable army, and the most important thing to note is that because the creep spread's been delayed, like, there's not really an easy way to catch this army out of position. Snoot's going to move out with a large number of Zerglings. Keep in mind, Baneling speed's not done yet, so these Hellbats can get quite a few shots off if the Zerglings run up front. And even still having these Banshees alive, he repaired them, and they're going to get a nice little bit more utility. They're really great at sniping individual Banelings.
Oh yeah, you could be one-shotting all the Banelings with those 2 Banshees, and it's always going to apply more pressure, and Mutas aren't out, so they can kind of rule the middle of the map easy peasy.
Yeah, Infestation Pit on the way for Snute as Polt creeps closer and closer to that 4th base.
Wow.
He has units watching the center base as well as the east side base, so he's like, okay, this is where the 4th base is. And there's actually no Spore here, so the Banshees are getting some work done. And if that Queen comes too far out, then the bio units are there. Now, Snute is finally getting out Mutalisks, by the way, 11 of them. So if he can overwhelm this ground force, force him to pick up, the Mutalisks can clean up pretty much everything else. Marauders up the front.
From behind.
Yeah.
But great pick up there, and he's going to have a very, very solid position above on the high ground, and I don't think Snute can go anywhere near that, not with any creep.
This is a great siege position for Polt. You hold the high ground, you can push the mutas away. You don't need to bring all of your bio, just enough down that you can snipe off Mutalisks if they try to, just use those against you.
If you go near it, it's going to be Widowmine hits. It's going to take a lot of damage from the Banshees as well. But we do see Snute going from the bottom left here, so he wants to get us around on the high ground units as well.
Yeah, Polt's got a 4th base on the way behind all of this. His 2-2 upgrades are getting very close to completing, so Snute has this tiny advantage for a small window, and he's going to try to use it right now. Picks up, and Widowmine takes out a nice chunk of Banelings. The bio is well spread off creep. Banelings run straight into Hellbats. Lots of Marines left over for Polt still.
Yeah, perfect positioning from Polt here, and now he's on the low ground, and these Zerglings are caught on the high ground here. So another very, very awkward position, and Polt he knows exactly what to do with this kind of army.
Yeah, Snute started up his +1 ranged attack. He has a lot of Zerglings in the way. Enduring Locusts is coming in. Polt has, just a few more moments where he could really try to make something happen. There's only 9 Banelings on the map. He has a good number of Widowmines, great triggering of them by Snute. So no big detonations, and if he can just hold Polt back a little bit longer, he will be able to get some Swarm Hosts out.
Yeah, he will, and he is going to finally fight this army off here. If he can chase down the Medivac with the Thor, that's going to be huge as well. And he's going to try and follow this up here and keep applying more and more pressure. He looks like he's going to try and use this momentum to go into the 3rd base maybe, kind of wiping out everything and forcing everything back. Yeah,
Polt losing quite a bit of supply, but, saving that expensive Thor so far and holding the bottom of this ramp as it is. Polt's 4th command center. Gets to drop into the natural expansion. So not too bad. Polt trying to go for the counterattacks. His 4th CC, his 3rd base under attack, but running his units around. He hasn't really lost a crazy number of SCVs just yet.
No, yeah, and he took out the natural, which is the biggest thing of all. While this is all happening, and because of that, Snute's just like, okay, I have to go and I have to do economic damage to even this out. But everything is just getting cleaned up at this point.
Yeah, Polt really just needs to make sure, I think his 4th command center was on fire. Like, if you don't lose that, you're in a good place. If you're on even bases versus Zerg, you're a happy Terran player. So lock down the 4th base. The only tricky part is that being in the center of the map, it's going to be a little bit awkward once the Swarm Hosts get into good numbers. He has 6 on the way, and we're going to be able to see Snute actually reach that phase of the game where he can try to lay down the siege. But still, Polt's the kind of guy that likes to drop all over the place. You really need to be on top of your Mutalisk control to defend this.
Yeah, and it's the perfect map to kind of try and go around the Swarm Host as well. I mean, there's so many avenues, so much dropping potential on this map. There isn't that many Mutalisks, and if you have a Thor with your drop, it'll be so much easier to deal with. 3-3 already on the way as well, well into the +3 upgrade for damage. Very important here.
Yeah. Snute's done a great job of baiting these Widowmine shots out on individual units. Polt trying to counter micro with the pickups, and I like sending a few Marauders forward. Doesn't want to move all of his Marines onto creep just yet. Just clear up those tumors. He has something like, it looks like a drop headed into the main base as well. Snute's pulling some of his forces to defend that at the same time, and this actually makes it pretty easy for Polt to just pick off the Banelings here and a lot of the Mutalisks as well.
And he's going to try and power through these Locusts as well. Just too much DPS here. And such great positioning from Polt here.
Runs up, he's starting to kill Swarm Hosts. These are the units you really can't lose. The drones are actually being pulled as well on top of all of this. A few more Swarm Hosts pop out. Polt's just going to try to retreat for now. He does still have those Widowmines, and this drop in the main base is dropped again.
So much damage going down here. He's going to put the army out of position once again. And Polt's in complete control of this game. 50 supply lead at this point. And he's just constantly applying the pressure. He knows he's in complete control.
Yeah, I mean, where does Snute even take this Moonglade? He's in a really compromised position.
I don't know.
It's really easy for Polt to spread him out, I feel.
Yeah, no, it really is, especially with Swarm Hosts. No doubt Polt knows exactly how Snute plays. He loves to get these Swarm Hosts, so he is dropping on both sides of the map. He's applying that pressure while getting a 4th base now. Once that planetary is up in the middle, that's going to be nearly impossible for Snute to deal with until he has some serious late game.
Yeah, considering how much those units get choked up, the Marines can, with that planetary, defend pretty easily that central base. So Polt's getting ready to move up once again. He still kept the creep off of his side of the map. Very important to know that it will make it really difficult to counterattack, even if Snute got a good trade. And since Polt's maxed out now, he's going to be accumulating resources. His +3 upgrades are finishing up, and there's still no hive from Snute.
Yeah, and the Locusts are going the wrong way as well here. He's going to have to rely on these Ling Bane to do all the damage, but there's so many Thors and Marauders and Marines in great positions here. Everything gets cleaned up. 40 supply lead at this point, and I think this hatch is going to go down.
Yeah, picking up this hatch should be a big win for Polt. Marines actually picked off as they were blocked by their own Thors, quite a few of them. But the hatchery dies, and now Polt can just safely pick up, get the hell out of here. He's not really worried about too much more. He's even in the natural expansion at the same time. All the drones running over here, well, there's no hatch here to mine from. And his 3-3 upgrades are done. His +2 vehicle armor's coming in. He's got a 5th base coming in. Polt's really, really good at making sure he gets all the late game keys that he needs.
Even Widow Mines are killing Swarm Hosts at this point. Polt's in complete control. He knows it. He's completely taken Snute apart. And I don't know what Snute can do from here. I don't know if there's actually anything. He's lost too many hatcheries. He is down 60 supply. More drops are going. The Swarm Hosts are surrounded by Widow Mines. Oh.
Yeah, well, it's like at some point, Polt's just going to scan. He's like, okay, my Widow Mine drop cooldown, scan. Let the Widow Mine kill a Swarm Host or two. Easy peasy. And these, you know, at this point, there's so few Swarm Hosts, his maxed army can actually fight them head to head. And, you know, it's rare that you actually are cost effective fighting Locusts. GG's called by Snute. Cannot stop Polt's army. And pretty